Hi guys, this is Todd with Real Active Wellness. Today I'm going to share with you a little bit on how the spine and the shoulder complex is related. And also I've learned over the years that the overwhelming majority of shoulder problems are a lack of spine motion and how the spine motion coordinates with shoulder function. So we're going to go over that. I have a couple of instruments here that are called inclometers. The purpose of this particular video is not to teach you how to use the inclometer, but what I'm going to do is show you that we can use the inclometer to measure a couple of things. The first thing, we're going to measure the thoracic curve. The thoracic spine is very, very much related to shoulder function and therefore shoulder dysfunction. So the lumbar, the thoracic, and the cervical spine should all have about 30 to 35 degrees of curvature. So I have these set appropriately already, and you don't need to know how to do that now because I imagine that most of you guys aren't going to be doing this. And so if I get these lined up in the right place, which we don't need to go over today, I'm going to see that this top inclometer is registering at about 25 degrees. If we go to the bottom inclometer, we're going to see that that's registering at about 9 degrees. So that is a total of 34. And remember, I said that 30 to 35 is ideal. So his thoracic curvature is pretty ideal. That's a small portion of the puzzle. It's an important piece, but it's a small portion. What we also want to know is that statically, standing, not moving, his posture is good, but what about his function? So whatever his spine curvature is, in this case 34 degrees, he should be able to reverse that curvature when he lifts his hands over his head. So I'm going to reset these to 0. Can you hold that for me? Okay. So now that I have these reset to 0, what I'm going to ask him to do is slowly bring his hands forward all the way up over his head. And as he does that, his spine curvature should change. Okay, right there is good. So now if we look at the top one, we see that one's at about 15. And if we look at the bottom one, that one's at about 12. 15 plus 12 is 27. You can relax. 27. So his static posture was 34. When he brings his hands all the way up over his head, he gets to 27. That means that he's lost about 6 and 7, is that right? So he's lost about 13 degrees of motion. That means when he brings his hands up over his head, if he's able to get his arms vertical, it's not coming from enough spine motion in the thoracic spine. So he's going to have to borrow excessive motion from somewhere else. Usually you're going to see that in the lumbar spine. Here's what that might look like. If you take your hands all the way up over your head, don't try to do a good job, just bring your hands all the way up. He starts arching here. The pelvis starts tipping forward. We increase the curvature in the lumbar spine. Now imagine he's got a heavy bar or a heavy dumbbell or a heavy medicine ball in his hands and he's doing thrusters or something like that. He is putting a tremendous amount of load or a compressional or axial load force through the lumbar spine. And an overhead press, in this case, can predict a lumbar spine problem, whether it be a disc derangement or something like that. Bring your arms back down, please. So we want to make sure that whatever the thoracic curve is, he's able to reverse the curve when he goes up overhead. Now, in this particular case, he's not able to reverse the thoracic curve. So we don't need to work on his posture, but we do need to work on his mobilization. So in his program, especially at the beginning as part of his warm-ups and corrective exercises, we should be allowing him or giving him the tools that will help improve his thoracic mobility. And there's a number of different exercises for that. So that's going to be the first thing. If he brings his hands all the way up over his head and his arms are vertical, because his thoracic spine is not moving ideally enough, what's happening is his shoulder joint will start to open up more than it should. Now you start displacing the shoulder joint with a heavy axial load. He's going to pay for that either in the shoulders, which is above the thoracic spine, or in the lumbar spine, which is below. So again, he's going to have to borrow excessive movement because of a lack of movement here. So for Jason, I'm not going to have him do really any overhead pressing. heavy overhead pressing anyways, until we can get closer to him reversing his curve. Otherwise, we're just signing him up for shoulder and lumbar spine dysfunction. So when you look at shoulder problems, especially rotator cuff, AC joint sprains, SC joint sprains, any sort of winging of the scapula, any of these common shoulder dysfunctions, the first thing where we should look is this thoracic spine moving to the degree that it should be to set him up for success. If it's not, it's going to set him up for failure. So a good trainer or a good therapist should know whether or not you should be loading this person heavy with hands overhead. Handstands are really popular today. I'm a big fan of those too. He should not really be doing handstands because he can't, at least not for long periods of time, because he can't get there without compromising or compensating somewhere else. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, I'd love for you to check out our Facebook page, Real Active Wellness. Feel free to reach out to me directly as well. Thanks for joining me.